What was the idiotic game you and your stupid friends played growing up? My buddies and I used to turn all the lights out in the basement and throw those giant exercise balls through the pitch blackness in random directions trying to hit each other. The fear, the anticipation, and the sound of the ball whistling through the dark. The game had only downsides and shouldn't have ever been created. Water balloon fights with the addition of 1 or 2 death missiles that were milk jugs full of water. I read that initially as water balloons full of milk, which would be a different kind of death missile. Our death missiles were just regular water balloons filled with alternative water. That's a funny way to spell ice. Whoa, we don't wanna hurt anybody. It was just piss and Tabasco. Predator and prey. We would divide up in teams. One would be the predators and the other prey. We would play in the dark to add to the fear, and the prey would run and hide. The predator would search down prey, tackle them to the ground. You have to get them in a pin. Once the prey taps out, they join the predator and take their shirt off to show that they are now predators. The last prey standing wins. Many bruises, much blood, lots of fun. Capture the flag in the woods with only one pump of the BB gun. One time we thought it was a good idea to throw darts up in the air, through a bunch of trees, friend's backyard, and run away, so you don't get hit. That lasted maybe an hour or so until one came down in a friend's shoulder. He lost. Oh man, where to start? I think my personal favorite was a game where you could smack someone in the face if they asked a question that ended in a 1-syllable word. I think we got that one from a movie or show. It lasted forever, and we all got clever with how we phrased out questions. And this was in school, so if we were in class and someone asked a bad question, you could call them out and smack them after class. Then there is a classic dork knob. If you burp or fart and someone said dork knob, before you called safety they could punch you in the arm until you touched a dork knob. The beauty of that was very few doors in our school had dork knobs, and we didn't count door handles. We would dump all of our Legos and Hot Wheels toy cars onto the trampoline and jump on it barefoot. The pain was excruciating, but all the toys flying around looked and sounded super cool. If waterboarding a terrorist doesn't get answers, it's nice to have a strong backup torture method. Mr. President. One person would put 2 fingers over their ear, like they are talking on comms. Eventually everyone would notice, and do it too. When one person is left who hasn't noticed, you yell, Mr. President, there's a shooter. Get down, and then you all tackle him. Did this at prom. 10/10ths would recommend tackling in formal wear for authenticity. Bloody knuckles, punching each other's fists until one of the people quit. Quarter game. I don't think it actually had a name, but you would use your thumb to launch a quarter between your pointer and ring finger at someone else's knuckle until they bled. Tackle football on the parking lot or in the woods by the apartments we grew up in. Lots of dumb stuff that caused pain. I definitely still have scars on my knuckles from the quarter game. IRA. We used to play a game we called IRA. Basically it was a team vs team game. One team would have a word and each person had a letter. Then the other team had to chase you and beat you until you told them the letter. It sounds pretty brutal now thinking about it, but I only ever remember going to the hospital once. That is equal parts genius and savage. Dude, this took me back. We used to play basketball on ripsticks, those skateboards that swiveled. It sounded like a really good idea at first. Me and my siblings used to have ripstick fights. We would all hope on our ripsticks and slam into each other trying to make them lose their balance. Shit got intense. Rock fights on a playground with those smooth pebbles instead of sand. You weren't allowed to throw singles, but you could throw handfuls. Makes sense. You can really put some zip on a single. Exactly. None of us really desired broken teeth or whatever, but a handful still felt like weak birdshot. Off top of my head. Playing baseball with a basketball and metal bat. Oh, my brother thought it was a good idea to allow me to try when I was young. That bat came right back and hit me in the forehead. Shit lumped up like a golf ball. Yup. Hit my knee the first time, then I was stupid enough to try again and hit my head. We made a game called Hide from Cars. Pretty straightforward. You walk around the city in the early hours, 2 to 4 AM, and the second you see car headlights, you run and hide wherever you could. people's yards, behind vehicles, alleys, etc. It was a fun rush of adrenaline for 10, 12 Yomi, especially when your hiding spot was flanked by a new set of headlights coming from a different direction. We stopped playing after one set of headlights turned out to be a cop. We were hiding in some bushes and the cop car stopped right where he last would have seen two suspicious people running. We hunkered down for a good 15 minutes while a couple squad cars continued doing patrols around us. Never got caught though. She was good fun. Nutball. Exactly what it sounds like. You'd sit on the ground, legs spread with your feet touching the other person's, and lob a tennis ball at each other. Jules. My coworkers and I would play that in the back of a moving truck. I have several questions. Smear the queer. Literally a football, and like 5 to 20 dudes. Whoever has the ball gets wrecked. Holding the ball and dodging people longer is the goal. Suicide/butts up. Tennis ball and wall game where you and any number of other dudes throw a ball against a wall. If the ball touches you without you catching it, you get the shit kicked out of you until you touch the wall. That's the suicide version of the game. The butts up is a slightly nicer version where instead of everyone just beating you, you go to the wall and face it and someone pegs you with a tennis ball. Smear the queer. Literally a football, and like 5 to 20 dudes. Whoever has the ball gets wrecked. Holding the ball and dodging people longer is the goal. Good times. Ding dong ditch. We stopped when some guy let his pit bull out on us. I only played that game with my best friend. We were like 12 to 13 at the time. After the first few times it got pretty boring, since we lived in the city, so it was super easy to just go to the next block over or something. We ended up playing Ding Dong Stay instead. We would wait until someone would open the door and just stare at them until either they would just go back inside or get really angry, at which point you just had to run. One time my friend rang the doorbell, the owner came out, and they just both didn't say a word and just stared at each other. So my friend rang the doorbell again and went back to staring kind of through the guy at the door. Then he rang the doorbell again and the guy just kind of busted out laughing. I'm guessing one of his neighbors told him we did that to him before and he was testing us back, but that was such a great moment for us as we could not effing stop laughing afterwards at the pure silence. Shoot arrows up into the air while laying flat on our backs, then pull a sheet of plywood over us. They were really blunt arrows, practice kind, or whatever, but still dangerous. We did a funner version of that by laying on our backs and shooting our paintball guns up in the air. Tons of paintballs. We wore masks, so no real danger for that one. We used to shoot arrows straight up and then scramble to catch them with a paper box. My friends were my cousins, but we jumped out of the second story window to land on a couch outside. Like everyone below would get close and flail their arms, like playing chicken. So you're scared the whole fall. It was so fun and scary, and a few of us landed on concrete, but W.E. Mudball fights upgraded with rocks. Filling Easter egg shells with pebbles and bombing each other. Making medicine and making someone actually drink it. Old beer and mud/soda and raw aloe shit was wicked. Who can climb up the side of the house fastest? Acorns and bridges. Yes, I know that is not how acorns is spelled. We lived by some woods, and there was a path that went through them, one part being a long bridge over a trench type thing under it. The objective was that you had 3 chances to throw an acorn as far as you could across the bridge. Those effers would bounce all over the place when they landed, and you had to hope they didn't fall off the side through the railing. The furthest acorn won. Our tournaments would go on for hours, and we could only play during the winter when there were acorns on the ground. The most important rule was that if you pronounced acorn the correct way and not acorn, you lost a throw. D&D, but completely without rules, character sheets, dice, or any of that. It was based more on the choose your own adventure books than actual D&D, which was a thing before we were born, I think. The storyteller would basically start orating fan fiction of a show or game made up on the spot, and the other person, or people, would have roles in the story. Much like D&D, they'd take turns saying what they do, or want to do, and the storyteller would tell them what happens, whether they succeed or fail, and so on. There were no rules, so if the storyteller wanted to go hard and say you failed at everything, there was no recourse for it, but the problem was more that we'd say yes too often. It was more like, what crazy shit can we come up with? I don't remember any actual stories themselves, but a few took place in the Super Mario Bros. Game universe. Grandma's nipple. Share a cigarette without letting the ash fall. Pass it around, and the person who drops the ash had to chew the filter at the end. This is one of my favorites, because of how deranged it is. That it's called Grandma's nipple really disturbs me. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.